Hey guys, tonight we're diving into the sweaty, smelly underbelly of ancient Rome's public toilets. Picture yourself weaving through a crowded Roman street, the air thick with the scent of fresh bread, horse dung, and something less pleasant. Sandals slap against cobblestones as you dodge a merchant hawking figs and a kid chasing a stray dog. Then you spot it. A stone building with open archways, steam curling out, and a faint hum of voices. This is no bathhouse. It's a public latrine or forica, and it's about as glamorous as a porta potty at a summer festival. You're about to step into a world where privacy is a myth, hygiene is questionable, and you probably won't survive this without gagging at least once. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with your city and local time. I love knowing where you're chilling tonight. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You push through the throng and pause at the latrine's entrance. The air hits you like a warm, damp Slaparthy, sour and faintly metallic. Stone benches line the walls, each with neatly carved holes, and Romans of all sorts are perched there, togas hiked up, chatting like it's a tavern. This isn't just a place to do your business, it's a social hub, a daily ritual where senators and shopkeepers rub elbows literally. Historians note that by the 1st century CE, Rome boasted over 140 public latrines, often built near markets or bathhouses for convenience. These weren't hidden away. They were as central to city life as the forum itself. You glance at the open layout and wonder, did nobody crave a moment alone? Nope. Privacy was a foreign concept here, and Romans were weirdly okay with it. But let's get quirky. Ever hear of the xylospongium? It's a stick with a sponge tied to the end, used for personal cleaning. They were shared, dipped in a bucket of vinegar or salt water, and passed along. Imagine the look on your face, grabbing one that's still warm from the last guy. Scholars still argue whether these sponges were rinsed thoroughly enough to avoid spreading disease. Some say yes, others say it's a miracle Rome didn't wipe itself out with dysentery. You're already questioning your life choices, and you haven't even sat down yet. The latrine's walls are smooth, marble, cool to the touch, and the floor slopes slightly toward a trench below. Water trickles through, carrying waste toward the Cloaca Maxima, Rome's massive sewer system. It's impressive, but don't get too cozy. That guy next to you is loudly debating chariot races, and the smell is starting to cling to your tunic. You notice a small statue of Fortuna, the goddess of luck, tucked in a niche. Apparently, even divine protection was needed here. Joke number 1. If Fortuna's watching over this place, she's probably holding her nose. You shift uncomfortably, realizing this is no quick pit stop. Romans lingered, treating latrines like a proto-coffee shop. You hear snippets of gossip. Someone's wife ran off with a gladiator. Typical Tuesday drama. The vibe is oddly communal, but the lack of walls between seats makes you cringe. A kid darts past, nearly knocking over a water jug, and you wonder how anyone focused in this chaos. Here's a modern aside. Imagine tweeting from one of these benches, #RomanVibes, while your neighbor overshares his lunch plans. You'd need therapy after this. As you take it all in, the sheer normalcy of it hits you. To Romans, this was Lefano shame, no fuss. But that damp sponge stick in the corner is giving you nightmares already. You're not sure if you're impressed or horrified, but one thing's clear. This is Rome at its rawest, a city that thrived despite its gross quirks. Ready to dive deeper? Let's keep going. You settle onto the cold, smooth marble bench, the edge of a carved hole digging into your thighs. It's not exactly cozy, and the guy next to you is way too close, his elbow brushing yours as he gestures wildly about a dice game he lost. Welcome to the communal latrine experience, where personal space is as rare as a clean toga in a rainstorm. You glance around, noticing rows of these benches, some with up to 20 holes, packed with Romans who seem bizarrely at ease. The hum of conversation fills the air, politics, grain prices, someone's terrible poetry. It's like a modern-day bar, but with worse plumbing and no cocktails. You shift, trying to focus, but the lack of dividers makes you feel like you're starring in a very public reality show. Mainstream fact, public latrines or foracae were a hallmark of Roman urban planning, often built by wealthy patrons to flex their civic pride. By the 2nd century CE, cities like Ostia had latrines with intricate mosaics and aqueduct-fed flushing systems. But here's the quirky bit. Archaeologists found a latrine in Pompeii with a painted fresco of a squatting man, mid-business, grinning like he's posing for a selfie. Why? Nobody knows, but it's peak Roman weirdness. Historians still argue whether these open-plan designs were about efficiency or just a cultural shrug at modesty. Some say it fostered community, others say it was pure practicality. You try to block out the chatter, but it's relentless. A merchant across from you is haggling with his neighbor over a shipment of olives mid-squat. Joke number 1. If this is multitasking, you'd rather stick to scrolling your phone in private. The bench is surprisingly ergonomic, though those Romans knew how to carve a seat. But the constant trickle of water below, meant to sweep away waste, sounds more like a leaky faucet than a high-tech flush. You notice the guy next to you has a scroll tucked under his arm, reading aloud to nobody in particular. Apparently, latrines were also impromptu libraries. Modern aside, imagine bringing your Kindle here and trying to focus while someone's debating tax reforms 2 inches away. The air is heavy, a mix of damp stone and something you're politely calling earthy. You're starting to understand why Romans carry perfumed oils everywhere. The bench is packed, and you're wedged between a burly baker and a skinny scribe who keeps muttering about his boss. There's no escaping the intimacy. You catch a glimpse of a slave scurrying by with a bucket, probably off to refill the vinegar for those dreaded sponge sticks you heard about last section. Callback. Remember that xylospongium? Yeah, it's still haunting you, especially now that you see one leaning against the wall, looking suspiciously well used. Despite the chaos, there's a strange rhythm to this place. People come and go, some lingering to chat, others darting in for a quick visit. You notice the social hierarchy at play fancy togas on some, rough tunics on others, yet everyone's equal on these benches. It's oddly democratic, in a gross way. Joke number 2. Forget the Senate. The real debates happen here, with better seating, but the lack of privacy is relentless. You try to imagine how Romans got used to this, but your modern brain is screaming for a locked door and some hand sanitizer. You lean back, the cool marble, a small relief, and notice the ceiling's vaulted design, letting in slivers of sunlight. It's almost pretty if you ignore the smell. The sound of water gurgling below keeps things moving, but you're starting to wonder about overflow. What happens when the system clogs? You push the thought away and focus on the guy across from you, now reciting poetry to an unimpressed audience. Joke number 3. If this is open mic night, you're not signing up. As you adjust to the bizarre normalcy, you realize this is Rome's pulse raw, unfiltered and unapologetic. Time to dig deeper into the tools of the trade. You're still perched on that marble bench, the chatter of your neighbors, a constant hum, when your eyes land on a wooden stick leaning against the wall. It's got a sponge tied to one end, damp and slightly discolored. Yep, that's the infamous xylospongium, Rome's answer to toilet paper, and it's giving you serious side eye. You try not to stare, but it's hard to ignore the reality. This is how Romans cleaned up after doing their business. You imagine picking it up, dipping it in the murky bucket of vinegar nearby, and nope, your brain shuts down. This is hygiene, Roman style, and is about as appealing as a warm sandal in a rainstorm. Mainstream fact: the xylospongium was a standard tool in public latrines, documented in texts like Seneca's letters, where he mentions a man's unfortunate encounter with one. These sticks were reusable, shared among users, and rinsed, hopefully, in vinegar or saltwater channels running through the latrine. But here's the quirky tidbit. Some archaeologists found xylospongia with traces of residue, suggesting rinsing wasn't always thorough. Gross? Absolutely. Historians still argue whether this practice spread diseases like choleratum, claim the vinegar was a decent disinfectant, others say it was a bacterial free-for-all. You watch a guy grab the sponge stick with zero hesitation like it's his favorite stylist. He dips it, wipes, and tosses it back into the bucket with a splash. You wince. Joke number 1. If this is Roman recycling, you're sticking to single-use tissues. The bucket's contents look like a science experiment gone wrong, and you're praying the vinegar's doing its job. A modern aside, imagine the Yelp reviews for this place. Great vibes, but the shared sponge situation is a hard pass. You shift on the bench, trying to focus on anything else, but the xylospongium is the star of this grim show. The latrine's still buzzing, someone shouting about a chariot race, another guy's complaining about his lunch. You notice the water channel below the benches, meant to keep things clean, but it's sluggish today, and the smell's getting sharper. Callback. Remember that Fortuna statue from the entrance? You're starting to think she's slacking on her divine duties. The sponge stick's presence makes you hyper-aware of every surface. Was this bench wiped down? Is that damp spot just water? Your modern germaphobe instincts are screaming, but Romans seem unfazed, laughing and scrubbing away. You spot a kid, maybe a slave, refilling the vinegar bucket. He's quick, dodging between benches like it's routine. You wonder how often they swapped out the sponges daily, weekly, never. The thought makes your skin crawl. Joke number 2. If this is sustainable living, you'd rather hug a cactus. The xylospongium wasn't universal, though wealthy Romans might have used soft wool or rosewater-soaked cloths at home. But here, in the public forca, it's one size fits all, and all includes the baker, the senator, and the guy who smells like he bathed in garlic. The marble's getting colder under you, and the noise is relentless. You catch a glimpse of a mosaic on the Farwalla dolphin, of all things, swimming in a sea of tiles. It's oddly charming, like Rome's trying to distract you from the Hygiene horror show. Historians think these decorations were a flex, showing off civic wealth. But no amount of art can mask the reality of that sponge stick now being passed to another user. Joke number 3. If this is Roman teamwork, you're fine flying solo. As you brace yourself to keep exploring, you realize this latrine is a microcosm of Roman genius, communal, and just a little disgusting. Ready for what's next? You're still on that marble bench, the xylospongium's grim presence lingering in your mind, when you notice the faint gurgle beneath your feet. The sound pulls your attention downward, where a shallow trench carries a sluggish stream of water and other things you'd rather not name. This is your first glimpse of Rome's underground marvel, the Cloaca Maxima, the grand sewer system that keeps this latrine from becoming a total disaster. You lean forward, peering into the darkness below, and the smell hits you like a warm, sour wave. It's a mix of engineering genius and raw filth, and you're caught between awe and nausea. Mainstream fact: the Cloaca Maxima, built around the 6th century BCE, was one of Rome's earliest engineering feats, channeling waste from latrines, bathhouses, and streets into the Tiber River. It's still partially visible today, a testament to Roman know-how. But here's the quirky bit. Legend claims workers once found a giant octopus living in the sewers, snacking on debris. True or not, it's the kind of story Romans love to tell. Historians still argue whether the cloaca was a hygiene triumph or an environmental messum, say it kept Rome clean. Others point out it polluted the Tiber to oblivion. You imagine the sewer's vast tunnels snaking beneath the city, stone arches slick with moss and mystery. The trickle in the latrine's trench is just a tiny vein feeding that beast. Joke number 1. If this is Rome's plumbing, you're not calling their plumber. The water is supposed to flush away waste, but it's moving slow today, and you spot a suspicious clump bobbing along. A modern aside. Picture posting this on Instagram number sewer goals with a filter to hide the grim bits. You shift, hoping the bench doesn't creak, and notice your neighbor still chatting about chariot races, oblivious to the stench. Call back. Remember that Fortuna statue by the entrance? You're starting to wish she blessed this trench with a stronger current. The latrine's lively, someone's singing off key, another guy's haggling over a debt. But the sewer's hum is a constant reminder of what's at stake. If this system clogs, you're all in trouble. You spot a slave with a long pole, poking at something stuck in the trench. He's unfazed, like it's just another Tuesday. You wonder what else lurks down there, rats? Lost coins? That mythical octopus? The air's thick, and you're breathing through your mouth now. The marble walls glisten with condensation, and a stray beam of sunlight catches the dolphin mosaic from last section, giving it an eerie glow. It's almost poetic, this blend of beauty and grossness. Joke number 2. If this is Rome's idea of ambiance, you're booking a forest retreat. The cloaca's genius lies in its scale miles of tunnels, some wide enough to sail a boat through, according to old texts. But it's not foolproof. Floods, blockages, and lazy maintenance could turn this latrine into a swamp. You lean back, the bench's chill seeping through your tunic, and try to picture the workers who built this system. Slaves, mostly, hauling stones and wading through muck. Their labor made Rome livable, yet nobody's toasting them here. The guy next to you fumbles with his toga, nearly elbowing you again. Joke number 3. If this is personal space, you'd rather share a bench with that sewer octopus. As you brace for the next wave of latrine life, you realize the Cloaca Maxima is Rome's unsung, hair-flawed, filthy, and absolutely essential. Time to see what else this place has in store. You're still wedged on that marble bench, the gurgle of the Cloaca Maxima fading into the background as the latrine's lively chatter takes center stage. The guy next to you is now deep in a rant about his neighbor's noisy roosters, and across the way, 2 merchants are swapping tips on dodging taxes. This isn't just a place to relieve yourself, it's a full-on social club, where Romans gossip, deal, and bicker like they're at a market stall. You lean back, the cool stone a small mercy, and realize these benches are less about hygiene and more about connection. It's loud. It's chaotic, and somehow, it's totally normal. Mainstream fact, public latrines in Rome, especially by the 1st century CE, were social hubs, often placed near bathhouses or forums to maximize foot traffic. Texts from the period, like Martial's epigrams, describe people lingering in foracae to network or eavesdrop. But here's the quirky tidbit. Some latrines had musicians playing outside to drown out natural sounds, think lyre tunes covering awkward splashes. Historians still argue whether this socializing was a cultural quirk or a necessity. Did Romans love the vibe, or was there just nowhere else to hang out? You try to tune into a conversation, but it's a cacophony. A guy in a fancy toga is boasting about his new villa, while a baker mutters about rising flour prices. Joke number 1. If this is networking, you'd rather send a carrier pigeon. The air's thick with that sour, earthy smell, but nobody seems to care. You notice a kid darting through, probably a slave, balancing a tray of water jugs. He's dodging elbows like a pro, and you wonder if he's heard every scandal in Rome. Modern aside, imagine live tweeting this scene number latrine gossip trending with 0 context. Callback. Remember that xylospongium from a few sections back? You spot one being passed down the bench, and your stomach lurches. The social vibe almost distracts you from the hygiene horrors, but not quite. The benches are packed, and you're brushing shoulders with strangers. It's intimate in the worst way, yet Romans are laughing, arguing, even sharing snacks. Snacks! In here, you spot a guy munching on a fig, and you're torn between admiration and disgust. Joke number 2. If this is multitasking, you're not signing up for the Roman productivity seminar. The latrine's design doesn't help. Open arches let in sunlight but also curious eyes from the street. You catch a passerby smirking as he glances inside, and you wonder if privacy was ever a thing. The dolphin mosaic on the wall-up is still there as a touch of class, but it's like putting lipstick on a pig. The water trench below gurgles faintly, a reminder of the Cloaca Maxima's hard work. You notice a guy scribbling on a wax tablet, maybe drafting a poem or a debt note. This place is a bizarre mix of mundane and absurd. You shift the bench's edge, digging in, and try to imagine lingering here on purpose. Romans did some spent hours, cutting deals or catching up. It's a far cry from your quick bathroom breaks back home. Joke number 3. If this is Rome's happy hour, you're sticking to coffee shops. As you soak in the noise and chaos, you realize this latrine is a microcosm of the city, crowded, unfiltered, and pulsing with life. You're starting to see why Romans didn't just endure this. They embraced it. But something else catches your eye, a small statue in the corner, and it's not just decoration. You're still squeezed onto that marble bench, the buzz of gossip and laughter swirling around you like a marketplace. The guy next to you is now complaining about his sore sandals, while someone else shouts a joke that gets half the latrine chuckling. But your eyes drift to a small niche in the wall, where a chipped stone statue stands, barely a foot tall. It's Fortuna, the goddess of luck, her carved face serene despite the chaos. Here, in this smelly forica, she's the divine bouncer, supposedly guarding against bad vibes or worse. You raise an eyebrow, wondering why a goddess would hang out in a place like this. Mainstream fact: Romans often placed shrines to Fortuna in public latrines, as noted in inscriptions from sites like Ostia, believing she protected users from mishaps or evil spirits. These tiny altars were common in spaces tied to risk or transition. But here's the quirky tidbit. Some latrines had offerings like coins or flowers left for Fortuna, as if bribing her could make the experience less grim. Historians still argue whether this was genuine piety or just superstition did. Romans truly feared divine wrath in the toilet, or was it more like tossing a penny in a fountain? You imagine someone pausing mid-business to mutter a prayer to Fortuna, maybe hoping their toga stays clean. Joke number 1. If this is divine protection, Fortuna's got the worst gig in Rome. The statue's base is worn, probably from years of hands brushing it for luck. You notice a wilted flower tucked nearby, a sad little offering. The air is still heavy with that sour stench, and the water trench below gurgles lazily. Callback. Remember the Cloaca Maxima from a few sections ago? You're praying Fortuna's got his back, because a clog would ruin everyone's day. The latrine's as lively as ever someone's reciting a poem now, and it's terrible, but his buddy's cheering him on. You spot a slave refilling a vinegar bucket for those dreaded xylospongia. Modern aside, imagine pitching this to a wellness influencer. Manifest good vibes with our Fortuna-approved sponge stick. You'd get blocked. The statue's presence feels oddly comforting though, like a reminder that even Romans needed reassurance in this chaos. You wonder what they feared slipping on the wet floor? Bad aim? Or something spookier like spirits lurking in the pipes? The marble bench is starting to feel like home, in a weird way, but the lack of privacy still grates. A guy across from you is munching on bread, crumbs falling dangerously close to the trench. Joke number 2. If this is fine dining, you're sticking to takeout. The dolphin mosaic on the wall catches a sliver of sunlight, and you're reminded how Romans loved their flair, even here. Fortuna's statue, though, steals the show. You imagine her watching this circus, unimpressed, as users shuffle past, some nodding to her like she's an old friend. You lean back, the stone cool against your back, and ponder the bigger picture. Romans saw the divine everywhere, even in the grossest corners. Fortuna's presence here shows how they blended faith and daily life, no matter how mundane or messy. Joke number 3. If Fortuna's blessing this place, she deserves a raise and a vacation. As you settle into the latrine's rhythm, you realize this goddess is just one piece of the puzzle. Something else is brewing. A faint whiff of trouble in the air. And it's not just the smell. You are still perched on that marble bench, Fortuna's tiny statue staring down from her niche, when a sudden ripple of unease cuts through the latrine's chatter. The water in the trench below slows to a trickle, and a foul whiff worse than usual rises like a warning. Someone mutters, "Not again," and you notice heads turning toward the far end of the room, where a dark puddle is creeping across the floor. The latrine's overflowing, and you're caught in the middle of Rome's grossest reality check. You lift your sandals, praying the mess stays clear, and realize this place isn't always the well-oiled machine you thought. Mainstream fact: Roman latrines relied on aqueducts and the cloaca maxima for flushing, but poor maintenance often led to blockages, as evidenced by archaeological finds of clogged pipes in Pompeii. Floods were a common headache in busy Foracae. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some Romans blamed overflows on angry spirits or bad omens, sprinkling salt or herbs to appease the pipes. Historians still argue whether these floods were rare or routinesome, say the system was robust. Others claim latrines were often a soggy mess. You clutch your toga, eyeing the spreading puddle like it's a personal attack. The guy next to you curses, hiking up his tunic and bolting for the exit. Joke number 1. If this is Roman engineering, you're not signing up for the tour. The air's thicker now, the stench sharp enough to make your eyes water. A slave appears, wielding a long pole to prod at the trench, but he's not exactly thrilled about it. You hear someone mutter about lazy magistrates skimping on repairs. Modern aside, imagine this as a city council meeting agenda item. Budget cuts. Let's skip sewer maintenance. You'd be tweeting for a revolution. Callback. Remember the cloaca maxima from a few sections back? Its mighty tunnels are supposed to handle this, but right now, it's letting you down. The latrine's vibe shifts less gossip, more grumbling. A merchant across from you is still trying to close a deal, but his partner's distracted, eyeing the puddle. You spot that dolphin mosaic on the wall, now looking out of place amidst the chaos. The overflow's not just gross. It's a reminder of how fragile Rome's systems could be. You wonder how often this happened, weekly, daily? Nobody's panicking, which tells you it's not rare. You shift the bench's edge, digging in, and notice a kid tossing a pebble into the trench, like it's a game. Joke number 2. If this is Roman entertainment, you're sticking to Netflix. The slave's still poking at the blockage, and a faint gurgle suggests progress, but the puddle's not retreating yet. You catch a whiff of something herbal, someone's sprinkled thyme into the mess, maybe hoping those pipe spirits will chill out. It's absurd, but you're starting to get why Romans clung to superstitions in here. This place feels like it's one bad day from disaster. The chatter's quieter now, though a guy in the corner is still ranting about chariot races. Undeterred, you admire his commitment. Joke number 3. If this guy's unfazed by a flood, he's the real MVP of this latrine. Fortuna's statue looms in its niche, and you're tempted to toss her a coin yourself, just in case. The overflow's a stark reminder. Rome's grandeur, its aqueducts, its mosaics rest on a knife's edge. As the slave keeps working and the puddle stops growing, you breathe a little easier. But you're starting to wonder about the cost of all this. You're still on that marble bench, the overflow puddle mercifully receding as the slave's prodding seems to have coaxed the trench back to life. The latrine's chatter picks up again, but you're distracted by a gruff voice at the entrance. A burly attendant is holding out a calloused hand, demanding a coin from a newcomer who looks annoyed but complies. You realize this isn't a free-for, all you've got to pay to pee in Rome's public foracae. You fumble in your imaginary pouch, hoping you've got a spare quadrans, the smallest Roman coin, because this guy doesn't look like he takes IOUs. The idea of shelling out for this smelly experience feels like a bad joke. Mainstream fact: many Roman public latrines charged an entry fee, as noted in texts like Juvenal's satires, where he mocks the cost of basic amenities. These fees, often a quadrans or two, help maintain the facilities, or at least they were supposed to. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some latrines had cheeky signs, like one found in Herculaneum that roughly translates to pay up or hold it. Historians still argue whether these fees were a civic tax or just profiteering. Did they fund repairs, or did some greasy official pocket the cash? You hand over your coin, and the attendant grunts, waving you back to your spot. Joke number 1. If this is premium access, you're demanding a refund. The bench is still cold, the air still sour, and you're questioning why anyone paid for this. You notice the guy next to you, now debating wine prices, doesn't seem fazed. Maybe he's got a season pass. Modern aside, imagine a subscription for this $9.99 a month for unlimited latrine vibes. You'd cancel in a heartbeat. The fee's a small price, sure, but it adds up if you're hitting the Foraca daily. Callback. Remember that overflow from last section? No wonder it happened if the fees aren't fixing the pipes. The latrine's buzzing, again someone's singing, another guy's complaining about his boss. You spot the dolphin mosaic, its cheeriness clashing with the gritty reality. The attendant still at the door, shaking down a new guy who's arguing he already paid. It's a hustle, and you're caught in it. You wonder who's getting rich off these coins. Probably not the slaves mopping the floor. One's nearby, scrubbing a stain with a rag that's seen better days. The payment system feels like a microcosm of Rome. Everything's got a price, even the basics. You shift, the bench digging in, and notice a kid slipping past the attendant without paying sneaky. Joke number 2. If that kid's gaming the system, he's the real Roman hero. The water trench gurgles below, a faint reminder of the Cloaca Maxima's labor. You're starting to see the latrine as a business, not just a necessity. Wealthy patrons built these places to flex their generosity, but someone's still cashing in. Fortuna's statue looms in its niche, and you wonder if she's judging the coin grubbers. You lean back, catching a stray breeze from the open archway. It's not fresh, but it's something. The guy across from you is now eating olives, spitting pits into the trench like it's a sport. Joke number 3. If this is fine dining, you're not tipping. As you settle into the rhythm, you realize the pay-to-pee setup reveals more than just Rome's economy. It hints at who got to use these spaces and who didn't. The benches may seem equal, but coins tell a different story. You're still perched on that marble bench, the clink of a coin in the attendant's hand fading as you take in the latrine's crowded scene. The guy next to you, in a rough wool tunic, is joking with a toga-clad senator type, their laughter cutting through the hum of chatter. It hits you. This Foraca is a rare leveling ground, where Rome's rigid class lines blur. Plebs, elites, even freedmen share these benches, elbows brushing as they gripe about the weather or the emperor's latest tax. But as you glance around, you notice subtle signs fancier sandals, a slave hovering behind a rich guy. That wealth still shapes who's here and how they're treated. Mainstream fact: Roman public latrines were unusually egalitarian, with archaeological evidence from sites like Ephesus showing mixed use by different social classes, a rarity in a stratified society. Unlike private homes where elites had plush facilities, foracae were open to most. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some latrines had VIP seats slightly wider or closer to the water channel, possibly reserved for bigwigs who tipped extra. Historians still argue whether this mixing was intentional or just practical. Did Romans design latrines to foster unity? Or was it simply a case of everyone needing to go? You shift, the bench's edge biting into your thighs, and watch a wealthy guy with a gold-trimmed toga breeze past the attendant without paying. The grunt at the door doesn't blink perks of status, apparently. Joke number 1. If this is equality, someone forgot to tell the bouncer. The air's still thick, that sour stench clinging to your tunic. A modern aside, imagine a Roman influencer flexing their VIP latrine pass on social media number elite squat goals. You notice a pleb nearby, his tunic patched, clutching a worn coin like it's his last. The feast's small, but for him, it's a choice between this and lunch. Call back. Remember that pay-to-pee hustle from last section? It's hitting harder now. Poorer Romans might have skipped public latrines, using alleys or pots at home, while elites waltzed in. The bench is packed though, and you're shoulder to shoulder with a mixed baker, scribe, some guy who smells like a fish market. The dolphin mosaic glimmers faintly, a nod to the civic pride behind this place. But pride doesn't erase the divide. You spot a slave waiting by the wall, holding his master's cloak like a valet. He's not sitting. This equality has limits. The chatter's lively, someone's mocking a senator's bad poetry, and even the rich guy laughs. Joke number 2. If this is class harmony, it's the loudest bonding session ever. The water trench gurgles below, a reminder of the Cloaca Maxima's grind. You wonder about those who couldn't afford the Fourquois. Where did they go? Chamber pots? The Tiber? The system's open, but not free. And that coin you paid feels heavier now. Fortuna's statue watches from her niche, and you're tempted to ask her why luck favors some benches over others. You lean back, the marble cool against your back, and catch a kid sneaking a fig from a distracted merchant's pouch. Joke number 3. If stealing snacks is the real class equalizer, this kid's running the show. The latrine's a paradox, shared seats, shared smells, but money still talks. You're starting to see Rome's social fabric woven into these benches, threads of power and struggle tangled together. As you brace for the next wave of this journey, you realize the air's getting harder to ignore, and it's not just the overflow's fault. You're still wedged on that marble bench, the mix of plebs and elites chatting away, their voices bouncing off the damp walls. But now, your nose is staging a full-on revolt. The air in this Forca is a suffocating blend of sour, sweat, wet stone, and something you can only describe as ancient compost. It's not just a smell, it's a presence thick enough to coat your throat. You breathe through your mouth, trying to ignore the stench, and wonder how Romans dealt with this daily assault. Spoiler, they didn't just cope, they had tricks to survive the latrine's olfactory nightmare. Mainstream fact: Roman latrines, despite their advanced plumbing, were notoriously smelly, as noted by writers like Martial, who griped about the fumes in public facilities. Ventilation was minimal, often just open archways or small ceiling vents. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some Romans carried scented oils or herbs, like myrrh or lavender, to dab under their noses, a proto-air freshener for the elite. Historians still argue whether the stench posed health risks. Some say it was just unpleasant. Others suspect it spread respiratory issues in crowded foraci. You fumble for an imaginary vial of rosewater, wishing you'd been born a fancy Roman. Joke number 1. If this is aromatherapy, you're booking a spa day elsewhere. The guy next to you, still yammering about his roosters, seems immune, but you notice a wealthy type across the way sniffing a cloth doused in something floral. Must be nice. Modern aside, imagine pitching this on Shark Tank latrine perfume, because you deserve to smell roses while you squat. You'd be laughed out. The air's so heavy you can almost see it curling like fog around the dolphin mosaic on the wall. Call back. Remember that overflow from a few sections back? Its ghost lingers in the damp, rancid undertone. The water trench below gurgles, but it's not enough to clear the stench. You spot a slave tossing a handful of herbs into the channel, maybe hoping to mask the smell. It's a losing battle. The latrine's packed, and body heat isn't helping. A guy munching on garlic-heavy bread because why not, adds his own contribution to the aroma. Joke number 2. If this is a scent profile, it's called Regret by Rome. You lean back, the marbles chill, a faint relief, and notice a faint breeze from an archway. It's not fresh, but it's something. Romans didn't have air fresheners, but some Forakai burned incense or had herbs strewn on the floor. You see no such luxury here, just Fortuna's statue in its niche, probably wishing she could plug her nose. You wonder how people function in this stink. Did they hold their breath? Get nose blind? The chatter continuous axes, chariot races, a bad poet-proof Romans powered through. You're impressed, grudgingly. The bench digs into your thighs, and you shift, catching a glimpse of a kid waving a fan for a rich guy. Joke number 3. If that's the VIP experience, you're fine suffering in coach. The stench is a great equalizer, though no one escapes it, not the senator or the baker. You're starting to see why those scented oils were a status symbol. As you brace for more of this latrine life, you realize the smell's just one layer of Rome's grit. Something darker's brewing, though whispers of things lurking beyond the pipes. You're still on that marble bench, the latrine stench clinging to you like a bad decision, when a hushed whisper cuts through the usual chatter. The guy next to you, mid-rant about his neighbor's roosters, lowers his voice and mutters something about demons in the pipes. You catch a nervous glance toward the dark trench below, where the water gurgles like it's hiding secrets. The mood shifts just a little, but enough to make you uneasy. Romans, it turns out, weren't just worried about smells or overflows. They feared supernatural nasties lurking in their Forakai, ready trete to make a bad day worse. Mainstream fact: Roman superstitions often tie latrines to the underworld, with texts like Pliny the Elder's Natural History, mentioning fears of spirits or demons in dark, damp places. Latrines, connected to the Cloaca Maxima, were seen as gateways to the unknown. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some Romans hung amulets or chanted rhymes to ward off toilet demons, like cacodemons, believed to snatch souls through the seat holes. Historians still argue whether these fears were widespread or just urban legends were latrines truly spooky, or did a few tall tales get out of hand. You lean forward, peering into the trench, half expecting a glowing eye to stare back. Joke number 1. If this is a haunted bathroom, you're not sticking around for the ghost tour. The air's still thick, that sour stench mixing with the damp, moldy undertone. A modern aside, imagine a Roman horror flick, Curse of the Cloaca, with jump scares every flush. You notice a guy across from you clutching a small charm, maybe a bronze phallus pendant, a common anti-evil eye talisman. He's not laughing now, and you wonder what story spooked him. Call back. Remember Fortuna's statue from a few sections ago? Her serene face suddenly feels like a desperate plea for backup. The latrine's lively, someone's haggling over olives, another's reciting bad poetry, but the demon talk has you on edge. You spot a kid tossing a pebble into the trench, like he's daring the spirits. The water gurgles louder, and you flinch, half convinced something's stirring. Joke number 2. If that's the Roman version of Bloody Mary, you're not saying it 3 times. The dolphin mosaic on the wall looks less charming now, its eyes glinting in the dim light. You shift, the benches chill, creeping up your spine, and notice a faint scratching sound below. Probably a rat, but your imagination's running wild cacodemons? Really? Romans believed these spirits could curse you with bad luck or worse. Some latrines had inscriptions begging protection from gods like Hecate. You don't see any here, but Fortuna's niche is starting to look like a last line of defense. The guy next to you mutters another rhyme, and you catch the word avertite turn away. It's creepy, but you're oddly hooked. The chatter picks up, like everyone's trying to drown out the spooky vibes. A slave refills the vinegar bucket, oblivious or pretending to be. Joke number 3. If demons are real, that xylospongium's probably their secret weapon. You lean back, trying to shake the unease, and realize this fear says something about Rome practical, yes, but haunted by the unseen. The latrine's a place of life and dread, and you're starting to wonder who else navigated its perils differently. You're still on that marble bench, the whisper of toilet demons fading as the latrine's chatter roars back to life. The guy next to you is back to griping about his roosters, but your attention shifts to a woman slipping through the crowded foraca. Her tunic is simple, her hair pinned tightly, and she moves with purpose, eyes fixed ahead. She's heading for a corner where a few other women are gathered, their voices quieter than the men's booming debates. You realize women use these public latrines too, but their experience was a different beastless swagger, more strategy, in a space built with men in mind. Mainstream fact: women in Rome, from matrons to slaves, used public latrines, as confirmed by archaeological layouts in cities like Pompeii, where foracae were unisex but lacked separate facilities. Space was shared, but social norms shaped behavior. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some women carried small mirrors or combs to latrines, possibly to fix their appearance in a pinch, as found in a Herculaneum latrine's debris. Historians still argue whether women felt safe or exposed in these spaceware foracae, liberating from mingling, or a gauntlet of scrutiny. You watch her navigate the crowd, dodging a guy waving his arms mid-story. She's careful, sticking close to the wall, and you wonder if it's the stench or the stairs making her tense. Joke number 1. If this is ladies' night, someone forgot the VIP lounge. The air's still heavy, that sour mix of sweat and waste stinging your nose. Modern aside, imagine a Roman gal vlogging this day in the life, surviving the foraca gauntlet, with a filter to blur the chaos. She reaches the corner where another woman hands her a cloth, maybe for modesty or hygiene. Callback, remember that pay-to-pee fee from a few sections back? Women paid it too, but poorer ones might have avoided forky, using pots at home to dodge the coster of the crowd. The bench is packed, mostly men, and you notice the women stick together, their chatter subdued. The dolphin mosaic glimmers, but it's no comfort here. You spot a slave girl trailing a wealthy woman, carrying a basket, maybe holding those mirrors or oils. Public latrines weren't private, and women faced extra hurdles. No dividers, leering eyes, and the hassle of long tunics. You wince imagining the logistics. The latrine's noise tax talk. Bad poetry feels louder now, like it's swallowing the women's voices. Joke number 2. If this is gender equality, Rome's got some notes to take. The water trench gurgles below, a reminder of the Cloaca Maxima's grind. You wonder how often women came here versus men. Wealthy ones had home latrines, poorer ones braved this or nothing. The woman you followed adjusts her shawl, ignoring a guy's crude joke nearby. She's tough, but you sense the weight of every step she takes. You lean back, the marble cold, and catch Fortuna's statue in its niche. Did she watch out for women too, or was her luck male only? A kid darts past, nearly tripping over a woman's hem, and she snaps at him fair. Joke number 3. If dodging kids is the foraca workout, she's winning gold. As you settle into this scene, you realize women's presence in the latrine reveals Rome's contradictions open to all, but not equal for all. Something else catches your eye now, of a faint gleam in the plumbing shadows. You're still on that marble bench, the women's corner fading into the latrine's noisy hum as your gaze drops to the trench below. The water gurgles, catching a glint of sunlight that highlights the stonework smooth, precise, a testament to Roman engineering. This foraca's plumbing, tied to the mighty Cloaca Maxima, is a marvel, channeling waste through a network of pipes and aqueducts. But as you peer closer, You notice a sluggish flow and a faint crack in the channel's edge. For all its genius, this system's got flaws, and breakdowns were as Roman as togas. You brace yourself, wondering why paradise always comes with a catch. Mainstream fact: Roman latrines were engineering triumphs, with aqueduct-fed flushing systems documented in sites like Ostia, where pipes delivered steady water to keep foraci functional. But here's the quirky tidbit. Some latrines had overflow valves shaped like grinning faces, meant to cheer the pipes found in a Turkish site. They're as creepy as they sound. Historians still argue whether breakdowns were rare or rampant-some, say the system was overbuilt for reliability. Others point to frequent clogs and floods as proof of its limits. You lean forward, the benches chill biting your thighs, and watch the water struggle past a clump of debris. Joke number 1. If this is high-tech plumbing, you're not hiring their contractor. The air's thick with that familiar sour stench. And a modern aside, imagine a Roman plumber's TikTok day 47. Unclogging the cloaca, send help, with 0 likes. The latrine's lively, someone's debating grain prices, another's munching figs, but the sluggish trench is a quiet threat. Callback. Remember that overflow from a few sections ago? You're getting deja vu, and it's not fun. The stonework's impressive, with tight joints and a slight slope to guide the flow. You spot a slave prodding the channel with a pole, his face set in grim focus. Breakdowns weren't just gross. They disrupted the whole foraca. You imagine backed up pipes turning this place into a swamp, and your sandals feel suddenly precious. The dolphin mosaic on the wall seems to mock the situation, its cheer clashing with the reality. Joke number 2. If this is Rome's smart home, the Wi-Fi is definitely down. Fortuna's statue looms in its niche, and you wonder if she's on strike. You shift, catching a whiff of herbs someone sprinkled in vain. The system's floss cracks, clogs, lazy maintenance hint at Rome's bigger struggles. Aqueducts were miracles, but they needed constant care, and corners got cut. You notice a guy in a fancy toga breeze past the attendant, probably dodging the fee. Callback. That pay-to-pee hustle isn't fixing these pipes, is it? The chatter continues, oblivious, but the slave's still battling the trench. Joke number 3. If this is job security, you'd rather be unemployed. As you take in the latrine's fragile brilliance, you spot something new scratched words on the wall, and they're not love notes. You're still perched on that marble bench, the sluggish gurgle of the trench below, reminding you of Rome's plumbing woes, when your eyes catch a rough patch on the wall. Scratched into the stone, barely legible in the dim light, are words screwed, cheeky, and definitely not poetry. It's graffiti, a chaotic mix of insults, boasts, and some very questionable drawings. You lean closer, squinting at a line that reads, "Gaius loves Lydia, but she farts louder than Jupiter." The latrine's a gossip wall, alive with the raw, unfiltered voice of Rome's people. You smirk, realizing this foraca doubles as a public diary. Mainstream fact: Roman latrines were often covered in graffiti, with examples from Pompeii and Herculaneum showing everything from love notes to political jabs, preserved by ash or time. These scribbles offer a rare glimpse into everyday Roman life. Here's the quirky tidbit. One latrine in Ostia has graffiti claiming a guy defeated his constipation here, complete with the triumphant doodle of a laurel wreath. Historians still argue whether this graffiti was spontaneous or a cultural habit. Did Romans see latrines as a free-for-all canvas, or was it just boredom? You trace a carving with your finger a wonky gladiator sketch, probably someone's attempt at fame. Joke number 1. If this is Roman street art, Banksy's got nothing to worry about. The air's still sour, that familiar stench clawing at your nose. A modern aside. Imagine this on Reddit. Roman roast. Gaius got owned in the foraca thread. The bench is packed, and the chatter's loud tax gripes, chariot bets, but the graffiti's stealing your focus. You spot another gem. Don't trust Marcus's lentils. You're dying to know the backstory. Call back, remember that dolphin mosaic from way back? It's looking downright classy next to this graffiti mess. The walls are free-for-all, with scratches overlapping like a fight for space. You notice a guy across from you, stylus in hand, carving something while his buddy laughs. It's a social act, like passing notes in class. The water trench gurgles, and you hope it's not plotting another overflow. Fortuna statue looms in its niche, probably judging the spelling errors. Joke number 2. If this is the Roman comment section, it's got more trolls than Twitter. You shift, the bench digging in, and spot a political jab. Nero's liar stinks worse than this place. Bold move, buddy. Graffiti wasn't just fun, it was risky, especially if it mocked the wrong person. You wonder who scratched these bored plebs? Drunk senators? The slave mopping nearby might know every feud on this wall. The latrine's a stage for grudges and giggles, and you're hooked. Joke number 3. If this is Rome's group chat, you're muting notifications. As you soak in the wall's chaos, you realize it's time to leave this Forica behind, but its stories are sticking with you. You're still on that marble bench, the graffiti's snarky jabs lingering in your mind as the latrine's noise chatter, laughter, the gurgle of the trench starts to feel like a second skin. But your legs are stiff, the air's thicker than ever, and you know it's time to leave this Forica behind. You stand, adjusting your imaginary toga, and weave through the crowd, dodging a guy waving a fig and a kid sprinting past with a bucket. The open archway beckons, promising fresher air, and you step toward it, glancing back at the chaos you're escaping. This smelly, lively place was Rome at its rawest, and you're not sure whether to applaud or run. Mainstream fact: public latrines were central to Roman urban life, with over 140 in Rome by the 2nd century CE, as noted in regional records, serving as both hygiene hubs and social crossroads. They showcase Rome's engineering and communal spirit. Here's the quirky tidbit. Some latrines had pet monkeys kept nearby, supposedly to entertain users, though a find in Ephesus suggests they mostly stole snacks. Historians still argue whether Foricae were a civic triumph or a hygienic gamble. Did they unite Romans, or just spread germs faster? You pause at the exit, the attendant's coin-grubbing glare burning into you. Joke number 1. If this was the VIP experience, you're never renewing your membership. The stench clings to your tunic, and a modern aside, picture updating your status. Survived Roman latrine. Need a shower and therapy. Callback. Remember that xylospongium from way back? You're thrilled to leave it behind, along with the sponge sticks nightmares. The dolphin mosaic catches a final glint of light, and Fortuna's statue seems to nod farewell. You're not sure if she helped, but you made it out. The street outside is a whirlwind, merchants shouting, carts creaking, a stray dog sniffing your sandals. You breathe deeply, grateful for air that's only half as bad. The latrine's chaos taught you something. Romans balanced genius and grossness with zero shame. They built marvels like the Cloaca Maxima, mingled across classes, and scribbled their feuds on walls, all while dodging demons and overflows. Joke number 2. If that's multitasking, you're sticking to single tasking forever. You glance back, the Forica's archway fading into the bustle, and feel a weird respect for its gritty role in Rome's story. You wander toward the market, the latrine's hum replaced by street vendors and bleeding goats. The graffiti, the shared benches, the pay-to-pee hustle, they're all snapshots of a city that thrived on connection, flaws, and all. Joke number 3. If Rome's heart beat in its Foricae, it was a smelly but strong pulse. As you move on, the sun dips lower, casting long shadows, and you're ready to leave this journey behind, carrying its strange lessons into the evening. Now, let's ease away from Rome's noisy streets, the clatter of coins, and that relentless latrine stench. Picture yourself stepping into a quiet olive grove, the air soft with dusk, crickets humming a gentle lullaby. The forecast chaos feels distant, like a story you heard once, fading as the horizon glows amber. Your sandals crunch on dry leaves, each step slower, your breath steadying to match the breeze rustling the branches. Rome's gritted benches, its graffiti, its shared spongezois, a world of hustle and heart. But here, there's only calm, wrapping you like a warm blanket. You find a soft patch of grass, lie back, and let the stars peek through the leaves, their light a whisper of ancient stories. The cloacas gurgle, Fortuna's watchful gaze, the chatter of strangers they drift away, leaving only this moment, serene and still. Close your eyes, feel the earth beneath you, and let sleep creep in, carrying you to dreams far from Rome's wild pulse. Rest now, traveler, you've earned it.